Hi, this is Rick for EDU Mobile. In this demo, we're going to talk about table views. We're going to begin our discussion of table views with a very simple table view, with a very simple model that is just an array. But first, I want to show you how we go ahead and set this up in Interface Builder. What we've got, and what we've started with, is a single view controller application. And then we've just deleted that view controller and drug a navigation controller to our screen. Now, if you've tried this before, and also with the navigation controller example we did this, you will get, with the navigation controller, a table view controller. And this is already set up for you, and we note that the root view controller of the navigation controller is this table view controller itself. Now, a couple of things that need to be done. First of all, in the template code, this cell, this prototype cell, needs to have an identifier. And if we look at the template code for the method cell at index, or table view cell for row at index path, we see that the cell identifier is set as a static NS string called cell. So the very first thing we need to do is in that cell, we need to supply the identifier, and it needs to match. If we change the identifier in table view cell for row at index path, then we need to change the identifier here. But this, regardless, we need to put an identifier here that matches whatever you put into the method. The default is cell, so our identifier here will be cell. Now, the other thing that needs to be done is, of course, when we create a new table view controller idea here, we're going to need a class to back it. So we have set up a class here called Table View Controller. I've deleted the existing view controller because we really need a UI Table View Controller subclass. And so we've created one of those. This I've just called Table View Controller, and we can see that it is a UI Table View Controller subclass. UI Table View Controller adopts the UI Table View delegate and UI Table View data source for us. So we don't need to adopt those protocols and set up our delegate methods, because those delegate methods will already be present in the template code if we subclass UI Table View Controller. Then, in our storyboard, once we have our Table View Controller, we need to select the controller object itself in the storyboard, and then go to this third icon, the Identity Inspector, and set our custom class to Table View Controller, or whatever we name it. Now that we have that very simple setup, we can proceed to code. And the first thing we're going to code is the model. This very simple model object here is just an NS array, and I've named it colors. And we're just going to have the colors of the rainbow. If that colors array does not already exist, we want to instantiate it by overriding the getter, and that's what I've done here. So we've got NSArray returning an NSArray, and the property is called colors, so this is the getter. If we were overriding the setter, it would be called set colors, but the getter is just named after the property. So if not colors, in other words, if colors does not already exist, and we see this underscore notation here to go to the iVar, so if colors doesn't already exist, we're going to instantiate it as an array of NS strings. And our strings are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And then we return our colors. So that's the model. It's just a very simple NS array of NS strings. Could we do this within the table view controller? Of course we could. However, I want to get you used to the idea of having a separate model, because table view models can become fairly complex. And so we want to separate the data of our application from the display of that data. And we use Model View Controller for that. So we should have a separate model. So now when we go back to our Table View Controller code, note that we have imported our model class, and we've also made a property of it here, non-atomic and strong. Strong because we do want to retain a reference to this, and then model, model. And I've just named it model here for simplicity. Next, in our implementation, we really only in this implementation want to look at 4 methods. The first is we want to lazily instantiate the model if it doesn't exist. We do this the same way that we lazily instantiated the colors array within the model. We override the getter. So we're returning a class model, an object of type class model, and we have a model. And if not model, then model equals model alloc init. Very simple. And then at initialization, we'll just initialize our model class and return it as the property model. So we return it here. Number of sections in table view, and we note that we have these pragma warnings. We want to get rid of these after we have actually coded in our class. So let's just go ahead and get rid of this one. We return the number of sections, and in this example we have 1 section. We are just using a simple table view, not grouped, not indexed, none of that, just a single section, and we're returning 1 to indicate that we're returning 1 section, or that we have 1 section of rows in our table view. The next method, table view, number of rows in section. Since we only have 1 section, we can return the same number no matter what section we're in. And so the number we want to return is the number of indices in our model's colors array. So that's pretty simple. We return self.model.colors.count. And again, we'll get rid of this warning. So that sets up our number of sections in table view and our number of rows in section. So that's the data source methods, and those are really simple. Now, the last data source method is cell for row at index path. And we talked a little bit about index paths in the discussion. What you really need to know here are the 2 important properties of NSIndexPath that UIKit adds to them for table views. And they are row and section. So indexPath.row will give us back the current row for the table view cell that we're interested in. And indexPath.section will give us back the section of the table view. And these are both 0-based, like all array indices are based. So with this, since we only have 1 section, we can just look at the indexPath.row value. Here is the declaration again of our cell identifier that we put into the storyboard for the table view controller. And then this interesting bit of code actually creates a cell by deallocating a cell that is already in the table view if there is one. So cells are reusable. When they scroll off the top of the table view, they'll be reused at the bottom of the table view, let's say. Or conversely, when they scroll off the bottom, they'll be reused at the top. So we get a new cell by dequeuing a reusable cell with the identifier. Now, if there isn't already a reusable cell, dequeue your reusable cell with identifier actually creates a new cell. But if there is one, why create one? So we just create one from the pool of cells that's already there in the table view. And then finally, we configure the cell. The cell's text label, .text, and there are in default table view cells 2 properties we're interested in. Text label is the main text label for the cell, and detail text label is the secondary text label, or the subtitle, or whatever you want to call it. So we have cell text label. That's a UI label, so we need its text property. And here we simply set it to the object at the index given to us by indexPath.row out of the self.model.colors array. And that's it. That's all we have to do. So again, this is an introduction to table views, how to get data into them, and how to get that data displayed in the rows. In the next couple of demos, we're going to look at adding cells to table views and deleting cells from table views, and also at being able to get detail information displayed by pushing out a new view controller using the ability that we have by the fact that this table view is embedded in a navigation controller. So let's go ahead and run this and see how it works. If everything was done right, we should see our colors being displayed, one per row in the table view. And here we go. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. We can see that as we scroll this table view, the table view is scrollable and everything has worked. Now, in this kind of situation, because we don't go off initially the end of the table view, none of these cells are really being deallocated or reused. But, of course, if we did go off the end of the table view, then the ones that scrolled off the top would be reused with new values at the bottom, and so forth. Thank you very much.